On today's episode of Hail Your Idols, the season of frights and foreboding continues as something independently financed this way comes. Some force, some dreamlike impulse deep in our psyches continues to draw us inexorably back to the swirling vortex of shifting trends in the film industry that is the year 1979. When slasher movies were still establishing their tropes, effects-driven horror was mostly attempting to catch up to The Exorcist, and the 80s suburban Amblin milieu was still largely just a twinkle in Spielberg's eye. There was clearly the space open for some new form of terror that had yet to be seen on screen, but what could it be? Don Coscarelli, I'll fucking say it, the auteur behind the Phantasm franchise, was perhaps the first brave soul to coalesce certain ideas and imagery into a single terrifying film. It's true, many of the movie's concepts might be less than fully developed, and some of the special effects wouldn't even frighten the wussiest of 6-year-olds. But in many ways, this only adds to the endearingly scrappy and idiosyncratic nature of the filmmaking. As is often the case with game-changing horror, the movie was made on such a low budget and scale that no one could have possibly seen the film's success coming, nor that it would spawn 4 sequels, much of the content of which is focused on the sexual exploits of Phantasm's bald, yet ponytailed, ice-cream-selling sidekick character Reggie, who was later positioned as the series' analog to Bruce Campbell's Ash from the Evil Dead franchise. What was I talking about? Oh yes, no one saw Phantasm coming. It's almost like it was some sort of floating orb coming around a corner, ready to drill into your skull and suck your brains before squirting them out the back of itself. Yeah, that's a pretty good metaphor.
Welcome to Hail Your Idols, a new Hollywood podcast with your hosts,
Sam Ludwig
and Elena Gibson. This is a podcast about film, primarily.
It's so hard to keep going.
You went a little fairy with your voice rather than scary. It was a little fantasy.
Primarily, we discuss movies, directors, and actors and writers known for their work during the new Hollywood era of studio filmmaking that began in 1967 with Bonnie and Clyde and The Graduate, and pretty much ended in the early 80s with One from the Heart and Heaven's Gate. This episode, we discuss Don Coscarelli's cult classic, Phantasm. And we are joined by a special guest, Levi Butner. Levi is actually our first repeat guest.
Woo!
Because he joined us before on our American Graffiti episode. Levi is an indie filmmaker living in San Diego, California, where he and his siblings are currently wrapping post-production on their first feature film, The Goat Man, and have now started seeking funding for their next indie horror film. Levi has a degree in directing and has spent most of his creative career as a video editor. He currently works for the popular YouTube channel Physics Girl as her sole videographer and editor, making educational science videos for the public. With 2 feature films in production, he plans to write, direct, act, edit, produce his way into Hollywood. With Levi's experience making a micro-budget indie film where he casts his friends and family, we thought Levi would be the perfect guest for this episode. So, Levi, welcome back. You mentioned to me earlier that Phantasm hits close to home for you, and you consider yourself a Phantasm superfan. Is that right?
Yeah. Thanks for having me back, guys. It's great to be back.
Yay!
Our pleasure.
Just got all nervous right before I had to talk.
Yeah. A little frightened, perhaps?
But yes, super fan. I really enjoyed it as I watched it, but as an indie filmmaker, once we hit the end and I had my thoughts on the film, and I don't know, I feel like I really loved it in the more that we talked about it afterwards, and then in the week and the way it exists in my head, I love it even more. So yeah, this thing was a piece of my heart. We had talked about me coming back on for the Star Wars episode, and I was like, what like movie in that time period would I want to come on more than Star Wars? And then 2 weeks ago, you showed me Phantasm, and I was like, I think I'd rather be on the Phantasm episode than the Star Wars one, because that I just didn't expect to see something I enjoyed so much that had like the same level of like camp and fun that I've tried to put into my films. So yeah, a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it.
We're still going to have you on for the Star Wars episode, probably.
Star Wars is a good place to start. This movie has a certain touch of Star Wars directly. Some people would accuse it of, but it also has, like that kind of Lucas Spielberg. It's playing in these new blockbustery veins, even though from a low budget level. This new aesthetic that they're establishing.
Accuse it of what?
The Jawas, the dwarves,
right?
Yeah. Well, so this movie has a lot of elements in it that they are, some of them are stolen from other things.
I think the only thing that's directly stolen is that there's just a blatant Dune reference where he's literally. Like, there's a black box, and he literally has to put his hand in the black box, and he starts feeling pain, and they're like, fear is the killer.
Yeah.
And he has to get over that until he can handle his hand. So it's just like, it is Dune, and then there's a place called Dune's Cantina.
Yeah. Which, a little Star Wars-y,
a little
too.
Star
A little
Wars-y
mixing
also.
with,
Yeah.
it's...
But also, I guess Cantina is just a place.
Yeah, but
I wrote Star Wars.
The Dune thing literally happens, and you're like, oh, this is Dune. And you, obviously, whenever he gets asked about this, he's like, yeah, look, I didn't know they were going to make it into a movie, okay? But it's literally the most famous thing for the book. It's the first page of the book. It's the first chapter of the book. The Gom Jabbar, fear, the litany against fear. This is like the center of Dune. Anybody who knows, even if they haven't read it, it's like, it's a blatant ripoff. And then the dwarves look just like Jawas. The Dune Cantina thing. There's a lot of, it's just obvious that he's doing it. It's not a problem.
No, wait. But let's talk about the Jawas.
I'm just saying it makes you think. It puts you in mind to point these things out, and there is plenty to point out. I think.
But in defense of the dwarf zombies looking just like Jawas, because yes, there are dwarf zombies in this movie. They look just like Jawas.
Yes, they've got glowing eyes,
and they've got the brown hooded cape. But the thing is that they had already shot 60% of the film when the Star Wars trailer came out. And they were like, oh, shit, should we change the design of our zombie dwarves? Because they look exactly like it. Like, they considered changing the color of the cloak. And then they ended up saying, no, you know what? Whatever. It's a different movie. In a few years, nobody's going to remember it.
Right.
They did not realize how big Star Wars is going to be.
Wait, so the thing that looks the most like ripping off Star Wars in the film happened to be an actual original choice they made at the same time Star Wars was being made, and that was just coincidence?
Yes.
Yes, but philosophically, though, they saw the trailer, and they thought about reshooting it, and then they decided, nah, we don't have to. With the same exact thing with the Dune thing. It's like, that's a famous book. Like, they know that there was a possibility. Like, they were like, our thing will be more famous than that thing. No, they didn't know Star Wars was going to... This was before Star Wars came out.
Okay, but
they didn't know it was going to be a big hit.
Right, but they were a micro-budget
This is not a
production.
criticism. I love this, but I love this about this movie. I need to make this clear. This is one of my favorite parts about this movie.
I still feel the need to defend a little bit, even if you think it's not a criticism.
Yeah.
Because if you've already shot 60% of the movie, and the way they shot it, because they didn't have that much money, is that they shot it in pieces over the course of a year. So they'd shoot a little bit, edit it, shoot again, edit it. So, like, if you're talking, they've spent already more than half a year shooting and editing and working on that movie, you're not going to change it.
But you're also
especially if you don't have the money.
You're also working on a large enough time scale. Like, you're set in mind that it could take us a year to do this. They could have reshot it. Like, I'm just like, they don't have to. And I like that they didn't. Like, to me, that is an element of it adds to the... I love that it copies Dune. Like, that is cool. Like, it's a low-budget movie. You're like, yeah, it's whatever you need to do, man. Put the tits in, rip off the things from the movies, give us some scares. You know what you need. You are executing at a high level. And it's like, I like that it's like a proto-Stranger Things, almost. It's very Stranger Things.
Yeah.
It's this idea of, like, I am trying to combine these nerdy elements. So let's be honest, this is kind of a nerdy movie. It's kind of a nerd horror. Is this a thing? Like, is this a horror convention movie? I'm saying, like, going to conventions to see panels of people who were in a movie. Like, this is, like, one of those movies, like, hardcore. This movie's inspiring to people. I think it's inspiring as you're watching it. Like
100%.
yeah.
Super inspiring. Yeah.
Like, that's kind of what you're liking. You're liking how the movie's pulling it off the whole time. You're like, you're fucking doing a good job, man. Like, that's my attitude with this movie.
Yeah. And on the topic of that, like, nerdiness, I don't think you can... I think lots of things try to like be like, we're creating the next cult classic or we're creating this for nerds. I felt like they just tried to make the best thing they could for themselves. They just wanted to make a great horror film, and everything I hear him talk about was being invested in making a great horror film to the best of his ability. And getting all of that nerd fandom afterwards, it's just a matter of how well you pulled it off. And I just have so much respect for anyone that can pull off what I've tried to pull off, making an indie film with very little money and no production company behind it. And I just have so much respect for the people that really nailed it, even with all like the really, really funny parts in this, even a lot of the parts where you feel like you're laughing at the film.
Never quite, but
we had the discussion where it's like the laughing that we're even doing. It is not the like it's so bad it's good type of film. Like this film also leaned so heavily into its humor and knowing what it was. I think the film had a lot of integrity. I think it really knew what it was. I thought the fiction was fantastic and pulled off, and any of the amount that we were laughing at it was just a part of the joy of it for me.
Yeah, Levi, when I watched this movie the second time with you and your siblings, you pointed out the scene in the graveyard early on when Mike is spying on his brother hooking up with a chick who turns out to be the tall man, and then he gets scared by one of the dwarf zombies in the woods, and he runs past his older brother and the chick hooking up, screaming into the shot. It's a hilarious shot. And then the brother looks up and has panties dangling from his teeth. Like, it is meant to be funny. And Levi, you pointed out that scene is early on inviting you to laugh with the film and telling you it's okay to laugh with this film. Like, you are supposed to do that.
Yeah, and totally. And on that topic, on that conversation I told you guys earlier, I saw the director speaking in an interview. He said very clearly from the beginning that he thinks, the scares are way more effective with the laughs, and that he wanted to break the tension constantly with laughs, and that the line between laughing and horror, or comedy and horror, is so razor thin.
Yeah.
He's like, all the biggest laughs we got are immediately after the biggest scares, because people cannot believe they got that scared.
Totally.
And so that tone that he set early, he just nailed it. He understood something, and I think he had a real talent for seeing the fun in going to a horror film. And that wasn't very clear back then. Even when they talk in interviews, they're like, with him, the horror isn't taken seriously. It's still not taken too seriously to this day, but even it was so much worse back then. And I just think it takes a creative foresight to be able to do that, on your micro budget, to be able to understand audiences so well that apparently the screenings went just that great, that hundreds and hundreds of people getting like 20 or plus big, huge scares throughout the film with laughs. It's really, really impressive and fun.
Yeah, and I mean, then this movie just like, it's just got to be aging so well. Because like, if you imagine, like a lot of reviewers at the time, they could be like, what the fuck is this? This is such crazy bullshit. But it's like, yes, it's the best kind of crazy bullshit. Like, there's so few movies that have, they're so unabashed in their mishmash of stuff. He preserves the mystery of this world so well while still throwing a lot of elements and over-explaining a lot of stuff. And you just like, his thing. I watched an interview with Don Coscarelli. Did you watch the one from 79?
With the tall man?
With Angus Scrimm?
Yes.
Yes, I loved that interview. That was so good. I'm so glad you watched that. But yeah, they were talking about having seen Sweeney Todd on Broadway, the original Sweeney Todd, because it's 1979. And that's very much the same idea of like comedy mixed with horror and stuff. And obviously, what that mentality that he's describing to a T, it is very much akin to what Sam Raimi describes as Spookablast.
Can you elaborate on Spookablast, please?
Well, it's just that. It's this roller coaster ride, Coscarelli describes it, of horror, scares, endless stimulation. It's very propulsive, but you're alternating between different tones, and it's just like a never stopping. You know, I mean, his stuff is not quite as extreme, I would say, as Evil Dead, but obviously, like, the connection to Sam Raimi is quite clear. That he was supposed to be in Phantasm 2.
He wasn't supposed to be in Phantasm 2, but they were both shooting on the same lot, I think, when Phantasm 2 was being made. And Sam Raimi was like, oh, can I be in your movie? And Coscarelli was like, well, I don't have any parts for you, but I'll, maybe I can find something. And there's this really weird moment when the camera pans over a bag of ashes and it has the name Sam Raimi on it. And at the time, Sam Raimi wasn't big.
Right.
So he didn't think anybody would notice. But now when you watch it, you're like, why the fuck's Sam Raimi's name in this movie?
Except
this
that
is the
makes,
second film.
Except that it makes total sense because these movies are so Sam Raimi-esque in Evil Dead. Especially, like, the character of Reggie is obviously in conversation with the character of Ash. These things are happening at the same time. Like, Evil Dead 2 is coming out at the same time as Phantasm 2, and I would say both of those are really when those personas get, Ash and Reggie get solidified as two totemic figures of American culture.
So for anybody who hasn't seen these movies, Reggie is the weird friend who's just hanging out.
He does not
Phantasm.
make a huge impact in the first movie.
He's just, okay, so Levi, you've only seen the first movie. What are your thoughts on Reggie?
My thoughts on Reggie, it was a little hard because you did tell me beforehand that he was a friend of the director, so I had that going in. But I will say he was unconventionally an actor in the way someone's like unconventionally attractive compared to like someone who's conventionally attractive. He was like unconventional in a lot of ways, and almost like a question in the back of your head is like, why'd this guy show up? I feel like almost like he was put in there as an attempted to be the comedic relief, but this was not someone who came from somewhere where you're like, that's the funny guy. That's this kind of guy. He was a little hard to put your finger on, in my opinion.
A lot of the original movie was cut. The first completed cut of this movie was 3 hours long. So a lot of character development was excised from this movie, adding to, I think, a nice, mysterious set of realistic set of characters who you can tell have a life, but are not overdeveloped. They reuse a lot of this footage in Phantasm 4, which a lot of it is just like, man, remember that time around the first Phantasm when I did this thing that you never knew about? And like there's like a shot of where that it's just the tall man driving a hearse and stone-facedly running over a border collie.
That's hilarious, though.
Yeah, but I don't think we need to know that he's cold in that way. I already got the menace of the tall man without that, I think.
But back to Reggie. Yeah, so Reggie is clearly a character that he always clearly had some kind of affection for, but I don't think it really came through in the final cut of the first film. And Reggie becomes the central character of the series. He becomes the heroic lead. Yeah, he's one of two leads in the second film, and then he's just straight up the lead in the third film.
Yeah, and he's like heroic, and every movie is about Reggie getting some pussy. He sleeps with every woman.
I haven't seen the next one. Didn't he die at the end of this one? I thought he was laying on the ground dead.
It's confusing what happens at the end. Is this a part where we want to get into like the ending of Phantasm?
Real quick, I want to say about Reggie, I personally feel like he's a combo of Michael Keaton, Nick Cage, and then Sam, you contributed Hank from Breaking Bad.
Totally.
So just to give you an idea of kind of like what his vibe is. He pops hard, but you're kind of like, is he a bad actor? You can't really tell because he is friends with the director, Don
No, but
Coscarelli.
I thought that I heard that he said that he'd heard that he was the best actor at the local city college.
I mean, he did have some acting experience, and he also had a big music career before.
I don't know if I got the biggest impression of him when I first saw the film, but something I'd rather bring up along that Reggie topic was when I saw the director talking about casting for it. He was talking about keeping your horror films based in reality. He was talking about that's why we like Hitchcock films, is because the humanity of Jimmy Stewart actually makes the stakes matter. There needs to be a big emphasis on keeping the world real if you want to make it terrifying. And he said one big way he thinks other films don't do that is they hire actors that look like models. Exactly. And none of it is believable, and they're all too attractive, and they're not real people in every sense of what we mean by that.
Right.
And he was very interested on making his characters seem like real people. And so this is all in service of that. I think
the male characters. The female characters are generally cast rather attractively, I would say, in these movies.
Well, this movie isn't for women, okay?
Yeah. You think it's not for women? Like, He said this. He said as much. Don Coscarelli. He said it's basically for 13-year-old boys.
Well,
who he thinks is
he didn't try to make it for 13-year-old boys, but he realized over time that when all the fans coming up to him afterwards who were talking about how much they loved it, they were all men who were from 10 to 13 years old at the time when it came out. So he realized later it just really appealed to them. And obviously that's because of the central figure of Mike, who is probably about like 14 years old or 15. I don't know how old he is.
I will say that this is a movie that I would not recommend to every person I've ever met in my life.
I don't love gory stuff, but it wasn't too gory for me. There's definitely some gory moments.
I enjoyed them a lot, personally.
It's a blast, though.
Yeah.
But I think like if you enjoy like Gremlins or if you enjoy like cult classic type movies like that. But
also a general audience. Like, I'm only thinking of people who might be turned off by this. I think this is a movie that most people should check out.
I think so, too.
I'd never seen this movie before. I didn't know any Don Coscarelli movies. I knew his later... I've heard of Bubba Hotep and Beastmaster. John dies at the end, but I didn't know that he was the guy who made him. Now I have seen Phantasm 1, 2, 3, and 4. There is a fifth Phantasm. Not directed by Don Coscarelli, but though I believe he did write it. And I'm like, I guess I will never watch that movie. I don't think I'm ever going to watch the fifth Phantasm movie in my life.
I only watched Phantasm 1, 2, and 3, and it was too much Phantasm at once. I think if I had spaced them out, it would have been different. But maybe in a couple of years, I could finish the Phantasm series. Let's go ahead and try to summarize the plot.
Yeah,
because it's a crazy fucking plot.
Yeah, go ahead. Do you want to...
I'm going to need your help. All of your help for this.
You can't start. We just watched the opening.
Okay,
you described the opening.
It starts with... And by the way, if you haven't seen this movie and you enjoy super fun cult classics, pause, watch this fucking movie, then press play. It opens with a dude with an amazing handlebar mustache. I love the 70s styles in this film. The bell bottoms and the hair, it's all great. But so this dude is hooking up with a chick in the graveyard.
The aesthetics are rather porny. Not the filmmaking, but like the way that they're styled. Like her legs are very shiny. If the sex scene is, like we're gonna give you some tits, and this is a sexy little moment, and the guy's mustache is kind of porny. I don't know. It's a little porny.
I have to say, seeing the tits in the beginning, I was like, oh, it's one of these kind of movies. I expected way more nudity throughout the film, but that's the only nudity. I know the nudity is weird for people and stuff, but like I'm watching this and I'm just like, it's another one of these elements where I'm like, yes, some cheap nudity, steal from Dune. A couple of explosions, like it's like make the movie. You know what I mean? Like throw in some tits. Like this opening sequence is beautiful and amazing, and the tits are they're nice and shiny, and I don't know. Like it's. I have to say, we just had a whole conversation in the Alien episode about whether or not it is tasteful or tasteless when Ripley takes off her clothes at the end, and I went hard against it, and I stand by that. Mm-hmm. But in this film, where the nudity is way more gratuitous and straight up just showing you boobs, I thought it was fun also. I was like, yep, that's this kind of movie. Go ahead, bring it on. I was down for those.
And it's like
titties.
I bet there's some independent movies that could be zhuzhed up with a little cheap nudity. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's probably too unfashionable. It's like denying yourself a certain kind of special effect or something, I don't know. Like, it's...
If a film right now, post 2020, opened with that sort of just cheap nudity, it would be like a retro throwback to how things used to. I think we'd just enjoy it at that point.
You're right. It would make it elevated. Yes. In a way. Like, you would be like, oh, fascinating. Like, is it cheap anymore?
It'd be like Top Gun Maverick. We'd just be ready for it and happy with it.
Yeah. You heard it here first. We're ready.
So you get some tits, you get some hooking up in a graveyard, and then that chick stabs Tommy. Mm-hmm. And he's fucking dead.
He fucking stabs Tommy.
So this is a great opening scene.
She stabs Tommy, and then
her face flashes into like a creepy dude. Yeah. Which is important later on.
Yes, this is actually kind of an interesting foreshadowing moment.
It's the whole movie. It's the twist revealed right there, and it's so impressive that I didn't remember that the whole time. And then you go back and watch it, and you're like, oh, they just laid it out for me.
Yeah.
And I just had forgotten.
I remembered. All right, so Tommy's dead, and there's a funeral for him.
Yes.
At the funeral home.
Next to the graveyard.
next to the graveyard. The funeral home has a cemetery attached
It's called
to it.
Morningside?
Morningside, yeah.
Yes.
The hero of our film enters, and that's Mike, and he's like 14 years old or something. And he's not allowed to go to the funeral because...
But he is allowed to shoot shotguns and ride around on a dirt bike.
And drive the car.
And go to a local psychic as many times as he wants. Spend all of his allowance on trips to the psychic.
Yeah, he's given a lot of freedom, and it's great. I love it.
Very 70s childhood portrait.
Mike spies on the funeral because he's interested in this kind of shit. And the funeral happens. Mike's older brother, Jody, attends along with his friend, Reggie, who we mentioned before. They leave. Mike's still spying, and he notices after the funeral's over, the tall, creepy dude called the Tall Man, who's, in my opinion, not that tall. Even though they put lifts on him, he's still not that tall.
There's no moment where he's terrifyingly tall.
Yeah. We'll talk about it later, though.
Yeah.
So he's
just kind of tall.
He's just a little bit tall.
You would say that guy's tall,
but he's creepy looking.
Yeah, he is creepy looking.
And instead of lowering the casket into the earth and burying it, he just lifts that fucking casket up, no big deal, and puts it into the hearse and creepily just like takes the casket away. And you're like, what is he doing with this casket?
I guess they just left it on the ground. Nobody watched them lower it into the...
Don't question.
So he's tall and strong.
Yeah, so I don't want to go through shot by shot this whole movie.
No.
But there's a mystery afoot.
Yes.
And we watch Mike spy on his older brother like a little creepo.
And the character dynamics between the brothers are one of the sort of early conflicts set up. Their parents are dead.
And Jody talks about how he's planning secretly to leave his brother behind. And I'm like, well, that's fucked up.
It's cold as hell. He's like, I want to make him live with his aunt. And like Mike is terrified of this prospect and has been hounding the psychic for information as to whether his brother will do this or not. There's an ice cream man, Reggie. They're at a funeral home, okay? They experience like some weird happenings. Like what else does he see? Does he see a dwarf? Does he see something?
Yeah, they start... Yeah, it's really funny.
Right.
The dwarves start sneaking around the graveyard.
Yes.
The spooky mystery afoot is alluded to with some hooded thing sneaking around the graveyard. The lifting of the coffin was a thing, and there's a lot of wandering around that graveyard, and something spooky afoot. Until they get to the house, though, and get inside, not a lot's revealed from what I remember.
Oh, and then the older brother Jody goes to the bar and he meets the hot chick there who is the murderer and also maybe a man, and gets lured into the graveyard to hook up with her, but Mike's spying on them, and Mike gets scared by one of those hooded figures who you don't really see very well, and he runs and distracts Jody and basically saves him from getting murdered.
Yeah, and later there's a part, by the way, when I just noticed this on the second time watching, where Jody, the older brother, is talking to the bartender later on. It's just like a little moment that they don't linger on, where he's like, oh, so I was hooking up with that chick up at Morningside. The bartender's like, the funeral home? And he's like, yeah, the cemetery.
Would you ever do that? Would you ever like hook up in a cemetery? Have you ever done that when you were in high school? Like, thought it was cool to just go to a cemetery on a date with somebody?
Church playground.
That's close.
There was a cemetery 2 doors down. There was a small, old, 100-year-old family cemetery 2 doors down from where I lived, my house, my whole life.
That's creepy.
Yeah, it was pretty creepy. I became convinced that it had vampires.
Levi, would you hook up in a cemetery?
I've never been presented the opportunity, but I wouldn't turn it down because of the cemetery reasons. That's not the reason I wouldn't do it in a cemetery, is because there's graves about.
Right.
Yeah. And bodies under them.
No,
it sounds kind of fun. It's a good story. Yeah. I wish I could say yes right now, and then I'd have that story, but I can't.
I went to this slam poetry event once. My younger sibling's really into this poet, Andrea Gibson, and I know it's the same last name as me, but we're not related. So Andrea was in this event where she's like your stereotypical like lesbian, like short hair, very like, kind of have an aggressive slam poetry style, but she's also an amazing poet. Love her. And it was her alternating with not a slam poet, just a normal poet who doesn't usually perform her stuff out loud. And she was this very like girly girl, like, you know, wearing a skirt and just like this soft voice like this and stuff. So you're like, okay, we're going to get some good like back and forth contrasts in terms of their type of poetry. But turns out that like soft girly girl poet was fucked up, and a lot of her poems were just about fucking in graveyards and having like the dirt under her nails and stuff. So you never know who's into that kind of shit. Okay, anyways, so to speed up the summary a little bit.
No, because a lot of it is stuff repeating.
Yeah, and Mike basically is like, there's something creepy going on. And so there's so much this film is characters being like, something scary is happening. Let's go investigate. And they don't need to be saving anybody. Like they could just leave town if they wanted. They were already going to leave town anyways. There's no reason why they shouldn't just leave town. But for some reason, they're heroes and want to investigate. So Mike investigates and he sees these zombie dwarf things. And then there's these spheres that fly in the air.
Whoa. You're going way too fast through this shit. Are you kidding me? No. The spheres are the fucking whole movie. Right?
I'm not saying we're not going to talk about them in detail more.
He has this iconic sequence happen, and you're watching it, and you're like, oh, this is some cool shit. And this is based on Don Coscarelli's dream. This is his childhood dream. It's these floating spheres that drill into your skull and suck your brain out.
Like it had these in dreams?
Yes.
Like James Cameron Terminator thing where he would see these and then he wanted to put them in?
Yes.
That's cool. I didn't know that.
This is him. That's him, you know, getting his primal fear things, that digging deep to what actually scares him.
It's so original. I was like, how do you come up with that? And then, no, that's what I want to execute and not explain.
Exactly.
You know, but if you have a dream about it, you have a connection to it that's different. That's cool.
Yeah,
that's
and you know,
awesome.
the guy who made them died before they were used.
I know, he could never even see it. The original one, it cost like $700 to make, and I'm like, that's a pretty good amount of money. Like that's not that expensive given how good they look.
And how much that would be worth now.
Yeah, they didn't have big budget for special effects, and the sphere stuff all looks really good. They had to do a lot of really creative work with, a lot of fishing lines, which in the remastered version they went through great pains. J.J. Abrams actually helped get the remastered version out because he loved the film. They had to go through great pains to like erase all of the fish lines in all of the scenes and stuff. So they use like fishing wire, but they also would like slow-mo, have footage of it like being thrown against the wall and stuff. But all the sphere stuff looks really good.
And the sphere, it has this like video game quality. The orbs, they come around a corner and then they come towards you. Like it's this very specific thing where you're like, okay, now it's time to fight the orb. And they have this great set of the inside of the mortuary, which is like all marbly and stuff, and it's got these hallways that they repurpose.
It's very visually striking and really cool.
For 2001-y or something. And again, there's also like the Dune, something in the Dune here too, like the hunter-seeker things, the little floating thing that's going to kill you in Dune. Mm-hmm. With the orbs, I think there's something there.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I can see that.
You need to understand that this movie is a horror movie, but it's a sci-fi horror movie, and it's kind of an action movie. You're fighting these things. You're shooting the shit out of them and blowing them up sometimes. Mm-hmm.
I mean, that scene when Jody just shoots it in midair, you're like, damn, that was a good shot.
Yeah. He comes around the corner and does like a little slide and cocks the shotgun and shoots it. Like, they fucking shoot the tall man in the face. It's like it's aliens, so it's not like they're like supernatural stuff, but there's also like you could just beat them up sometimes. And they're like vessels or something. This movie begins throwing many elements at you and hinting at a large world.
And in true, just great filmmaking fashion, not explaining anything,
right.
Just showing it and you learning about the world as it's happening. I loved the fiction. Yeah. Every second something new like that was presented. Yeah.
And it's just so economical. They have these portals to another dimension. They're two fucking steel poles. In the other movies, they'll just take these two poles to the desert and go through them. And it's like, yes, that we made our portal to another dimension. Like
I really like the portal part a lot.
Like
I loved like earlier in the movie when they show Reggie with a tuning fork putting it against the guitar. Mm-hmm. And then later Reggie's interacting with the portals. He hears a humming and he realizes it's similar to a tuning fork and he puts his hands on it. And you see a flashback to the tuning fork. And I just thought it was really poetic, that sequence.
Yeah.
But okay, you wanted to go more in detail about the spheres.
No. I feel like we touched on this. We sort of described like the spheres is like it's kind of like the key thing that happens. It's kind of the most uncanny thing.
It's the most random,
original thing to this movie.
And you can see why it's inspired by a dream. So the spheres, they float around, and when they find you, they attack, and they will drill into your forehead, and then massive amounts of blood shoots out the back.
Very Sam Raimi. Like, this is very Evil Dead 2. Like, they really are playing in the same kind of like, no, make it extreme. Like, the ball drills into his head, it shoots a bunch of blood at the back, he falls down, he pisses his pants. That's literally what happens in this movie.
But I read somewhere that they weren't originally planning on having that much blood come out, but they had somebody like pumping a syringe during that scene, and the syringe got clogged with blood, and so they were filming and no blood was coming out, and they were like, come on, get the blood. And so he pushed harder on the plunge, and then like it just all squirted out all at once. And then Don Coscarelli like watched it, and he's like, oh, that's good.
Yeah,
I love that so much. Those are the details when you learn about how movies were made that just make everything. That's now an iconic scene, is all that blood squirting out of his face, and it's just guys on set going, get the freaking pump to work, it's not working. I love that.
All the blood shooting out in massive amounts is another one of those elements that makes you realize the movie knows what it's doing,
right,
in terms of being funny while also being scary.
But like you could just see, like, Roger Ebert like hated this movie, like, or just thought it was like so stupid. And it's like you could just see a critic at the time watching this being like, what the fuck is this? But now it's just like, this is beautiful. Like, you look at it and you're like, this is art. I don't know, I can't describe it. Like, it's not, this movie, it has a scrappy charm, and there are some effects that look comically bad, but it never doesn't work really. The little Sesame Street fly animal thing is maybe the one moment. I love it. I mean, I love it. I love it too.
Can I just say, I was not scared at all at any point in this movie. Levi, though. Levi can't say the same thing. And partway through the movie, Levi would be like, oh my God, it's so scary. And I would just look over at him like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Okay, we were laughing a lot during it, but there is some great stuff in how they, and I swear I let all my guard down because it's kind of a silly movie.
Yeah.
And so these parts where I don't even know if they were even knew how they were treating it, where things just like, I hate saying it because she's going to make fun of me, but where the dwarves were running up behind him in the hallway, every time I say it, Elena laughs at me. And they're not playing the sounds, and these little dwarves start sneaking up behind him. They just, the way they composed a lot of the shots just were really effective to me, and I so let my guard down every 10 minutes where I just didn't think they would do a lot to scare me. And okay, the creativity, the originality of the fiction, I just thought was so good. When the box opened and it wasn't a finger but a fucking bug, it scared the shit out of me.
Right.
It scared me, and I jumped, and you made fun of me for it. And then the whole bit of actors having to pretend like something, and very Sam Raimi again, like you said, that's all funny and stuff. But then when we get downstairs and the bug is a threat again, I just got scared again. I thought it was a scary movie. I thought it was really funny too, but it got me with its scares, and I completely see why back then apparently the audiences got terrified a lot and jumped a lot, got really scared.
I would call this movie scary. I don't know if I don't generally get that scared by movies in general, but like, this is a movie that I would look at and classify and be like, that's pretty scary. Like, it's so unfamiliar, so much of the stuff. Yes. And Coscarelli said that because this is a fairly, okay, do we want to finish do we want to keep describing these touches, which are what makes the movie great?
Yeah, I mean,
but the summary to me, the reason why I want to do the summary is because, like, can we describe what happens in the end of this movie? Like, can you explain to me, like, what? I don't remember. I watched the movie last night, and you get so bogged down in like all of the lore that gets expanded upon in the further movies. And yet, a lot of it is still there in the first movie, and it's very confusing to me. I'm in a not fully. You look very eager to jump.
Well, I was going to say, because I haven't seen any of them, and I've seen this once, I'm just going to try and summarize what I saw at the end, and you tell me what the fiction is that you've learned at this point. Does that work?
Sure. Yeah, please.
From what I got of the end is it's some sort of an alien entity or spaceship that was keeping that house there, and the whole thing, they don't explain how anything's run.
This beautiful neoclassical house, which becomes the hallmark of all of the architecture of all of the future Phantasm movies.
Does it?
Always a neoclassical house. I was like, what kind of I had to look up what kind it was. Anyway.
That's awesome. That alien entity is essentially using the corpses that humans dispose of, and it's turning them into these little slaves that it's for some reason needs this house to there, and it keeps them there and turns them into creatures that they call dwarves, and then it takes them to the planet and uses them as slaves. And I think that's just a really cool fiction. It's awesome.
Yes.
And they did it all with their own weird visuals, and that's what I got out of it.
But then what happens? After you learn all this stuff.
So I do want to add.
I agree that
detail.
I love it. I love all that stuff.
I do want to add a little detail that the reason they become dwarves, because it's like, it's normal people who, after they're supposed to be buried, he steals their bodies.
It's like Plan 9 from outer space.
And turns them into dwarf zombies. The reason they're half the size is because the planet they're going to has more intense gravity, so they have to be shorter, I guess.
Did they say that?
Oh, they did. Yes,
do.
they definitely did.
I forgot.
Yeah. Oh, because right.
Because science.
No, and okay, sorry to go back a little bit, because like this has been threaded and is never picked up again much in this movie, although a little bit, and not really ever again in the other movies until the fourth movie. But so Mike has a psychic connection. There's some psychic powers or some psychic sensitivity that Mike has.
That comes up in the third movie.
No, it does come up?
Yeah, because I haven't seen the fourth one, but I've seen
Okay.
this. Like, the tall man is particularly interested in Mike.
Yes.
Which you don't really realize in the first film.
But what you realize in the first film is, like, he's got this relationship to this psychic lady. It's kind of really cool, like the psychic lady and her granddaughter. It's one of those things where it's like an old lady that doesn't talk and just like a cute granddaughter who's like, my grandmother says you don't need to worry about this.
Oh my God, are you going to talk about the photograph?
Oh, I don't even think about that. Right?
Is that because he's a psychic?
No.
Himself?
Well, so by
Mike?
the time we get to the fourth one, there's such interdimensional stuff where you find out like the tall man is he took the body of this guy named Silas or something like that, and like that's a picture of the guy. There's time jumping. It's so fucking crazy. But there's a psychic lady and her granddaughter who teach Mike, you're going to be okay. Fear is the mind killer. Put your hand in this box or I'm going to jab your neck with a gum jabbar, like you're Muad'Dib or whatever.
Because it's crazy.
Dude, shit from Dune. It's just so strange, but amazing. I love that. I needed to say that. I love that it has this thing. Because at that moment, like, you either know Dune, but it's like a thing that only you know, and you're like, oh shit, that's like a fucking thing from Dune. Like, it's like a cult thing, or you don't know Dune and you're just like, whoa, that's fucking cool.
Right,
like,
right.
It's like, that's deep shit, man. And so he's like, you need to understand, you need to overcome your fear. And Mike and the tall man have some kind of connection, and so there's a psychic something or other. But that thread is not, you lose a lot of the psychic thing with all of this other stuff.
Yeah, you watch Phantasm and you're like, why the fuck is there a psychic in this movie? But you also love it. Okay, but what happens is they discover the portal. They discover that the dwarves are being used as slaves because Mike kind of goes into the portal a little bit and sees this other planet where all the dwarves are being used to do hard labor. And then he gets pulled back out. And then they're like, we got to kill the tall man because he's a bad guy. And so they try to do that. Reggie, as I mentioned, puts his hands on the portal and it shuts it all down.
Yes.
And after that, it then restarts and there's this humming sound that sounds as if it is a machine that's turning on and whirring and all of that stuff. And so that is, you know that something is coming. Some big special effect is going to happen. You don't know what's going on. Then what happens is they're trying to escape the house and Reggie gets killed by the tall man.
Yes.
Reggie.
Yes.
Reggie's dead.
Reggie's dead.
Mike and Jody are like, we got to get out of here. The house disappears like a spaceship.
Yes,
like
the mortuary.
you realize that the house was a spaceship and it took off.
Which is
gone.
weird because like I was watching and I was like, this does seem, because it's supposed to be a little something Wicked This Way Comes.
Oh, I was
Inspired?
like, this is Rocky Horror.
It's very Rocky Horror. But no, I mean like the whole thing of like, I was thinking about, it's weird that like there's this new funeral home in town, seemingly, and like it's this beautiful neoclassical house. Like and yeah,
is
but
it
I was
new?
like, well, that's the thing. But then it obviously is like it was a spaceship all along. Or
I guess so.
But yes, you know what I'm asking. Like, what is the order of events? If
Okay.
there's a car crash, Jody dies, or no, or what?
No,
happens?
wait. No, let's
Yes,
keep going.
Sorry.
Let's keep going.
Okay.
Reggie gets killed, right, by the tall man.
Yes.
And then Jody and Mike defeat the tall man by luring him up
Yes.
to a mine shaft.
Yes.
This is shot, by the way, for anybody who's a San Diego native. Some of the scenes are shot in Julian, so that's why mine. I don't know.
Yeah, and they've been fighting back against these forces with fucking shotguns and bats.
Yeah.
And crashing cars into stuff and blowing them up.
They're really holding their own.
Yeah.
They're scrappy. They're fighters.
It's like a more violent version of an Amblin thing. Like imagine like kids in E.T. or whatever had like guns and were shooting shit. It's like
like in the third film, there's a kid who's even younger than Mike.
Yeah.
He's like 8 or something, and he has this frisbee that has razors attached, and he kills people by throwing this razor frisbee at them.
Yeah, it's honestly
it's
great.
Amazing.
It's like, oh, he's like the new Mike because he's like a 90s kid. And it's like, wow, 90s kids are pretty fucking extreme. Like, it's like, damn.
It makes me want to watch that movie. That sounds fun.
I think you would get a lot out of these movies.
Okay, so what happens, I think, they defeat the tall man. So Reggie gets killed. Jody and Mike defeat the tall man by luring him down the mine shaft. Great, they won, great. And then, I don't remember if it cuts straight to the scene, but you see a scene where Mike and Reggie are in front of a fireplace talking. And you're like, what the fuck? I thought Reggie was dead. They're talking about how Mike's been having these crazy dreams. And Mike is describing these dreams about the tall man and Jody. And Reggie's like, but you know that Jody died in a car crash earlier. And then you realize, what the fuck have I been watching this whole time?
At what point did it start being a dream? Like, but because he's having dreams throughout the movie, like, and the movie is called Phantasm. It's supposed to be a dream.
And there are lots of car crashes in the film. So
yes, right. Exactly. I was like, which car crash are they talking about? Like, because you've seen a bunch of them.
It's
So,
also crazy because
is that just his brain is making these car crashes?
very early in the movie, Jody is at the mausoleum or the funeral home, and he's looking at tombstones, and he sees the name Jody on one of them. But I think it's actually his father.
Right.
But I think it's kind of hinting that he's been dead the whole time or something.
Yeah. But it's a real moment where it's like, right, you cut out an hour and a half of this movie.
Yeah, you're like
there was stuff that
you're like, this is not explained well.
this makes no fucking sense. Like this ending, and then
Okay, this is important. So you're like, oh, it was all a dream.
Right.
Okay. And then Mike goes up to his room, and the fucking tall man's there being like, boy, which is a very famous line in the movie. And then these dwarfs break through the window and grab him and pull him out the window, and the movie's over.
Yeah.
And that's it. And Don Coscarelli describes the ending. First of all, he said he didn't want to make originally, like he didn't plan on making any sequels.
It doesn't feel very sequel-y at all, any of these endings.
Because he said, in his mind, the original had a very finite ending.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, did it though?
Yeah. No, well, I mean, the endings of all of the movies all end on this thing that's not like a cliffhanger, but is really just like an actual scary movie ending that's like, evil wins in the end. Right? But then they have to treat them like they were a cliffhanger. And it's like, he had his knife literally at your throat. And then in the next movie, he's like, I'm not going to kill you. And like they just have to continue the story at the same point when they were clearly about to die in the movie. Like, so, yeah.
Yeah, Don Coscarelli describes the ending that he lulls the audience into thinking that it was all just a dream, but turns out the tall man just wins at the end.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know if you lulled me that much into thinking that it was all just a dream. I don't know.
Because it was like
30
one
seconds
scene
of
later.
supposedly it being a dream, yeah.
But it's just confusing, though, because you're like, okay, wait, so the tall man is real.
Yeah.
But in the second film, like, Jody really is dead.
Right. Yes.
And Reggie is not dead. So you're like, at what point was just a dream? Like, what happened? It's very not clear. That's something that I think helped the film gain such a cult status, is how confusing it was. If it was more straightforward, I don't think it would be as famous. So did you guys like that weird ending, or like did it work for you?
There's nothing there's nothing I strongly disliked about this movie at all. It's not quite my kind of movie, but it's kind of impossible to resist. What do you think?
It's a little hard to say. I do have to say I'm completely repulsed by waking up and that was all just a dream.
Yeah,
any point
same.
in any movie about any scene ever. Just waking up, oh my God, that was a dream, just never really works for me. It didn't really have a big impact on me at the ending. And I just kind of thought that was just one of like the bits that doesn't really work for me. Like maybe the ending would be coolest if we did it this way. And I was like, I don't think that's the coolest way to do it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where it ends for me with that. I just didn't think it was that effective of an ending after the journey was so fun. I didn't think that climax was twisty enough to be really exciting or like an original idea. It did the whole like, oh my God, the whole movie was a dream. Nope, it's a scare. And it didn't really impress me or scare me. And I was kind of like, the movie ended before that for me. It didn't have a huge impact, to be honest.
It leaves dangling unresolved the brother relationship. Because, like, you presumably, like, they get to a different place, but then Jodie dies off screen.
And I think when you have those loose ends or just possibilities, it puts it in your hands to have your own experience with the ending. Everyone's going to walk out talking about the ending to a certain extent where it wasn't clear. And I think that's kind of how it ended for me, was to give people, the things they latched onto, what they think happened. And sometimes you just lean into, give them something to talk about.
Regarding the brother relationship, now given that it's all a dream and that Jodie was dead, Levi, I remember you saying something really cool after we watched it the first time, where you said, now knowing this, it's like Mike is chasing his brother's memory the whole time. And Mike is, when he's following Jodie around and spying on him and making sure that Jodie doesn't leave without him and stuff, it's like he's working through grief. And I know Don Coscarelli, one of the things he wanted to explore in this film is how our culture treats death.
Thanks for reminding me of that again. I think that goes straight to my point, too, of how it changes the way you looked at the story and what it makes you kind of feel. And I do remember once it clicked that I didn't think the brother was there the whole time and what the younger brother was doing the entire time. I think he is wandering around town, not with his physical brother being alive, but him following this sort of, I'm not trying to sound, I don't know, cool or metaphorical, but him following the ghost of his brother around town and finding himself on this crazy adventure. And it all kind of comes around that word phantasm, after the director talked about him finding that word, and he said he's only really heard it in Edgar Allan Poe films, but these kind of like undefined nightmarish dreams. And then at the end of it, it's just like, phantasm, like, the horrors of your life all throughout this really creative, fun, specifically like film adventure, like a very visual medium. This thing was meant to be on film.
Yeah.
Dreamlike
is the goal. And that's definitely achieved. These movies, they're a mixture of action-packed, but also kind of stately and slow in a way. Like, sometimes I kind of feel like there's an aspect with, especially like the later movies, which become a little tiresome. I was like, this is kind of like being in a museum where like I look at a painting for a second and I'm like, oh, that's cool. And then my friend still wants to stay there and like look at it for like 3 different angles. And I'm like, aren't we moving on to the next painting? Like, can we keep going through it? Because it's like they shoot a lot of great coverage, and like you got a person in a cool mask. You got to get a lot of cool shots of him. You got to hit him with the shotgun 5 times and blow him up, or
I actually thought that compared to the second and third films, which I saw, the first film takes its time a lot better. I felt very phantasmed out trying to watch all 3 of those in short succession, but watching the first one again afterwards was very refreshing because it takes its time.
Yeah. And like regarding the mystery and just like this film putting a billion things on the table, this is a version of like lore and world building that I don't find annoying. I don't know if it's just that you can really feel the idiosyncratic nature of like all of these ideas are generating from this one guy, but he never gives you too much. He's never explaining things in the future movies. And in this, it's the goal is only ever to like add dimensions that you can only like glimpse at. This is a kind of a horror movie that like there's a kind of completist horror. It's a horror nerddom. It's like very like convention culture. This is a version of like film culture that you and I, Elena, are not a part of.
I haven't even seen Evil Dead 2 all the way through, or Evil Dead 1 for that matter. Yeah, so like, and I typically don't describe myself as somebody who loves to pop on the cult classic So Bad It's Good, which again, as we've said, is not this movie. Like this movie isn't bad. It's good. It's good.
Yeah.
But the So Bad It's Good type film or like the schlock, or that's not really my type of thing. I'm gaining more of an appreciation for it the more I become a film fan, which maybe is always the trajectory a little bit for film fans. I'm not sure. But yeah, this is not our wheelhouse, but it was super fucking fun.
Is this like, have you ever gone to like conventions, Levi, or would you ever do you have like, do you read Fangoria? You're a horror person.
I never considered myself that, no. And I think a lot of my interest, even in horror, in film, it's all the indie film aspect of it. It's like how I got into it in general. My interest in genre in general. I I think I'm going to make Christmas movies someday too, with as much Christmas as I put horror into my films right now. I just love genre. Yeah. And on indie budgets, it's like such a good way to get cinematic and escapist because you can have such huge, high concept.
Right.
And I don't know how to explain my love for it any more than like, it's so how M. Night Shyamalan talks about his own stuff. Because I grew up on M. Night Shyamalan and these like, sort of like what he calls elevated horror, where you treat the whole story like it's not horror, like it's a bigger deal than it is, but it's all through the horror genre. That's always been my love for it. It's to treat it like a dramatic family thing, but have all those horror elements. Right. I never understood the just making something for the sake of it. And some of these,
or like, are you a person who will like watch like the 10 sequels to a movie? Or whatever, or like, or do you have like any of those?
No,
like, you know what I mean? Like
no.
that kind of
See,
like
I'm not
deep like level of like.
No,
Levi's not really a nerd.
That's what I'm saying. Like, this is a nerdy...
What?
Well, this is exactly the question
Are you offended?
This is the question I want to... Yeah, so this movie's nerdy as hell, I think.
it is nerdy as hell. I've always considered myself a really big nerd. Being into video games and movies my whole life, Star Wars nerd,
Right.
escapist, big concept, storytelling, for sure. But just, yeah.
But you're not like, let me tell you about all this stuff that you don't even know about. Like, let me just like dump my encyclopedic knowledge about this stuff because I got really into it.
Yeah, I guess I'm not. I don't know. I guess I'm not like a huge nerd in that regard. It's something like I love a lot, and I feel like I missed out on. I've never been to Comic-Con, and I've always wanted to.
No, yeah, I kind of do too, but it's like,
And we live in San Diego,
right.
by the way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like it is our local culture.
But what are you saying about the nerddom with it?
I don't know if movies really occupy this vein anymore, but there's something about this that's like it's a flavor. It's like 90s sci-fi channel vibes, where you're comforted by this is a thing that has its tropes, and you like how simple it looks, and there's like an aesthetic of like. It's this level of believability with the makeup. It also has a touch of like classic horror. Like the tall man is supposed to be like this Universal monster riff a little bit. Or like they're going for like, we want to create one of the all-time iconic horror figures. The idea was we don't want to have him be sympathetic or like cool at all. We just want to have him be unpleasant. Just an old creepy dude who is in no way suave or like funny really or anything like other than just like, he is the dry, frightening aspect.
So hearing Don Coscarelli talk about these movies, I didn't watch any videos, but I read interviews with him. And him and Reggie, they keep emphasizing how iconic the tall man is and how great Angus Scrimm, the actor, was who played him and stuff. Fangoria, they named the tall man as one of the, horror icons and stuff. I didn't find him to be somebody that stuck with me that much. Like, the tall man didn't really work for me.
Well, but this is the thing, though, is like, I think there's something about, Coscarelli and the tall man and think that it's like when Bruce Springsteen talks about writing the song Born to Run. He's like, that was my shot at the title. That was just me trying to write the greatest song of all time, and it's like, you appreciate the audacity. And this is like, they're like, we're going to create a modern horror icon. And like, there's not that many of them. Like, there are only so many characters, and this is one that does not have an iconic like crazy knives for hands or something like a really wild look, and yet he does. I now could explain the essence of the tall man to anybody. He's very tall, first of all.
Yeah, apparently I've heard that the tall man inspired Slender Man.
Yeah, right, exactly. Like they got something that's a little bit different. It's not quite a zombie. It's not quite he's a mortician. Have any of you met a mortician in real life?
I don't think so.
I met one, and I gotta say he was rather similar to. This was he clearly, leaned into it. He was wearing a black leather jacket and black pants and all black. He was off duty. We was at a Dunkin' Donuts. I was looking through my lines, and he was like, "Oh, what do you do?" He talked like this. He's like, "I'm a mortuary director," and I was like, "Oh, really? It's a very fascinating line of work." And yeah, he was just like, that's, I guess, how you have to be. I don't know if he was like that first and people thought that he should get into that line of work. But anyways, yeah, he's like a mortuary director. And it's just Angus Scrimm is this guy who, he was just a stage actor. His name was Angus Scrimm. Don Coscarelli was like, your name sounds kind of like a horror movie actor. This is a stage name, Angus Scrimm. And he embraced becoming this icon. He became a convention staple. He said he was in love with watching Phantasm with a bunch of nerdy little guys. The movie worked for him every time. He is exactly the kind of lovely story of this, post-70s convention horror movie nerd celebrity guy. This made his life, being the tall man.
And I think that's really sweet.
He manifested he's like, I'm the modern Karloff. Like, that is the position that I want to have.
Who's that?
Boris Karloff, the guy who played
Frankenstein.
Oh,
nice.
Horror movies pigeonhole people a little bit sometimes. And he embraced it, and, he loved it.
Yeah, and I'll say, kind of to both your points, Elena, you were saying, throughout the tall man and how we're even experiencing now and how he exists in my head and yours is not how you are experiencing him in this less than 2-hour feature film. That's not where, for me, even all of what's great about this whole thing comes out. It wasn't in the sequence of events as much as it was how you loved the film during and after, and then the entire story of how it continued, and like you're saying, his break into the nerddom and all that. I saw him say that he had seen most of his movies 2 to 3 times before that, and when he saw this one with an audience, the reaction was just so strong, he couldn't stop going to see it. And so he said even in that interview that he just always stops into the cinema just to watch the audiences watch it because it was so fun to see how they reacted. And knowing this name of the tall man and what Slender Man did for my generation and how it was one of the most terrifying things during that 5-year online period, that is what makes this part of why now I have so much love for this. And it wasn't because I was blown away by Angus Scrimm and his performance as the tall man.
Right.
Oh, and another part of that, I just want to say I loved hearing him, the director, talking about how into the role he was, that he would just go home at night and stay up and drink scotch and just record weird voices into the mic and then bring it to it the next day and be like, maybe we can do this and this. And they just had so much fun working on it. And I don't even think he as a director utilized all of that in a way that, I don't know, that we all got as an audience member, but it showed that they were putting their heart and fun and love into this film. And I really loved hearing that. And I think that's part of the success for it as well.
It is so charming. And, I kind of think the role of tall man, it's a brave role. Because can we talk for a second about the sexuality of the tall man?
Yeah, sure.
Because
You're right.
He turns into women
Yeah.
to lure them and then kill them so that he can then use the dead bodies to turn them into dwarf zombies. Every time I say sentences like that, I love that I'm saying that sentence. It's so funny. He didn't have to fuck Tommy in the beginning.
no,
He could have just stabbed him right away.
Yeah, he wanted to savor
But
the
he
moment.
fucked him.
Yeah, he
So
fucked him.
I truly saw so many connections between this and Rocky Horror Picture Show because Dr. Frankenfurter, bisexual, he's fucking everybody, and then he brings the dead back to life, and he's an alien. So I think they're very connected, and it's such a minor aspect of his character, but the more you think about it, the more cool it is.
Sexuality is always present in these films. This movie, sorry to get a little too deep into future Phantasm lore, but in this movie, it is this thing where the tall man is becoming this lady, and he seems to have the ability to turn into this lady to lure men. In future movies, spoiler, it does become clear that at least sometimes the tall man and certain other people are human vessels for the orbs themselves. And so the orbs will have to come out of one of their fake tall man suits and go into the body of somebody else. And I'll just tell you, in the 4th movie, sorry to spoil this, but at one point, because they got to come up with new ways to do stuff, they fit 2 orbs into a person because it's a girl and it's her boobs. And the orbs come out of her boobs. So I'm just telling you that does happen in Phantasm 4.
That makes me want to watch Phantasm.
I know. They are always mixing things up. They always got something new for you every movie.
I have to say these movies, they were very Lynchian to me. And I heard some Phantasm fans speculate that one of the episodes in the Twin Peaks reboot they think is a nod to Phantasm because there's a scene in which a orb floats up out of a person as if it's their soul and stuff, and that definitely evokes Phantasm.
It really, the red room in Twin Peaks that's very the mortuary.
And Tall Guy. You haven't seen that much Twin Peaks, but for sure. The style, the weirdness of it, the psychic scene, It's super Twin Peaks.
Yeah, I was also like, are we missing flannel shirts in movies? Like, I feel like there's not enough like regular guy like heroes who just put on a flannel shirt and shoot something. There's something
I want
they're
more of that.
shooting these things with fucking shotguns and blowing them up. Like they give a little boy a gun and says, "Warning shots are bullshit. You shoot to kill. If you shoot a man, you must kill him." This is his older brother giving his 13-year-old Mike a shotgun.
Wasn't that the exact line? Warning shots are bullshit.
Warning shots are bullshit. He pulls multiple guns off of their racks of shotguns that they have in their home.
There's a lot of shotguns.
Yeah.
But he also gives like good advice of like, don't aim a gun at somebody unless you are okay with killing them.
Yeah.
And this really sets that film up to be a perfect 80s film. Like the second film, I've heard it compared to the transition from Alien to Aliens.
Yeah.
Because the second one is just straight up like 80s. We're going in with our shotguns. Instead of wearing bell bottoms, we've just got normal like, tight 80s jeans and muscle shirts. And we're just going in, taking our guns out of the trunk of our car, hunting down the tall man to kill him. Yeah. And it really does transition very well into the 80s action film.
It has a toe in a lot of different things. It is hard to say how much it is inspired by stuff like Lucas and Spielberg and Sam Raimi, and how much it's just like all of these guys were drinking the same water and they were just coming up and they were coming to the same conclusions.
Can I ask? It's on the topic of the Sam Raimi thing and the historical context because I don't really know. So what is the deal with Sam Raimi here? How is he related in any way to this guy? And I mean, from what I know, this guy is the director is a no-name, and he got his father's money to make his little micro-budget thing, and he got really lucky with Universal buying it and that whole story.
Yeah.
What do you mean when you're talking about Sam Raimi's relationship to this? How they were friends, and why Sam Raimi's name is in one of the sequels, and what do you mean in its like similarities to Spielberg? Do you mean it's very post or pre what Spielberg was doing at the time?
I think we should definitely tackle each of those separately. So first, the Sam Raimi connection, from my understanding, and Sam, you'll have more to say about this, but from my understanding, it's like Sam Raimi and Don Coscarelli were both making similar films around the same time, and they're both indie directors,
indie movies, yeah.
And so like for the first film, I don't think they knew each other, but I think once he made the second
film... They both
film...
came out the same year. Phantasm and The Evil Dead come out the same year. Whoa. Phantasm 2 and Evil Dead 2, I think, come out the same year. Whoa.
And I think that they were both shooting Evil Dead 2, I think was shot, like they were shooting on similar locations, like maybe in the same studio.
Yeah.
And they met through that they were both coming up around the same time. So it's like they become friends because they were both small indie directors who got picked up by studios making their movies around the same time. I could be wrong about that. Maybe they knew each other some other way, but that was my understanding.
The characters are remarkably similar. Like they
and I don't think it's from stealing. Like they came out around the same time.
Right.
They just happened to come at it at the same time.
It's just fucking weird that you're watching this movie. You're like, wow, this is kind of like Evil Dead 2, and then you see Sam Raimi's name on an Ashes thing. Like it's weird. Sorry.
That's my question. Which you said, which is so Sam Raimi. Before you said like, oh yeah, these things are so Sam Raimi, but you're not saying this is 5 years, 10 years post Evil Dead. What? So they're doing the same, like even bits, twins. Like the hand bits and the over-the-top blood.
Yeah, right.
They just happen to be very similar creatives coming up with these things at the same time. That I didn't even get at the start of it. That's crazy.
That's what it seems to me. Or else there's the whole Don Coscarelli does fucking steal for
shit. There's also like it has Dune, it has Star Wars.
Yeah,
but they're all coming out at the same time.
Star Wars came out at the same time. He didn't steal it from Star Wars. The only thing he stole from is Dune.
No, but he could have fixed it and he didn't. Like,
he already
doesn't
shot 60%
care.
of the film and they didn't have much money. Come on,
I know,
what do you want from him?
I'm just saying that like. The whole thing of like, actually, technically, the Star Wars thing is like they just came out at the same time. It's like, yes, but he did acknowledge that he could have changed it. He was in the middle of it and he didn't. Yeah. Anyways, but I love it. But no, yeah, I was just saying like they have very similar sensibilities. The squirting out of the gratuitousness of that in the orb is very Sam Raimi, but just like the character of Reggie. And but even in the first movie, like they're presaging where Evil Dead 2 is going to go. Evil Dead 1 is much more of a traditional people getting victimized by these forces movie. And there's even similar imagery in Phantasm 1 where it's like there's a part where he's getting like hands come out of the dirt. And it's just kind of like the tree stuff in Evil Dead. But
you're talking to us, but like I haven't seen Evil Dead, and I don't think Levi has either.
No, not all of it.
What happens
is you'll have to just talk to the audience on this one.
I am doing this, right? So like Evil Dead 1, cabin in the woods, forces torment them, right? Evil Dead 2, what's cool about it is it just focuses on Bruce Campbell's character from Evil Dead 1. It's just kind of a remake of Evil Dead 1, but then it's like Evil Dead 1 happens to him, but then he's going to start fighting back. And it's like, what's cool about Evil Dead 2 is that it's a transition. I'm spoiling this, I guess, for you, but it's a transition between tones of like being a person victimized by these evil forces to being a guy who's like going to fight back and like, yeah, I'll fucking kill you. He's got a shotgun and he becomes this kind of a superhero, right? It's a much more cartoony, extreme version of exactly what happens with Reggie, which is just he becomes a square-jawed, shotgun-toting, beflannel-shirted, ponytailed and yet bald,
woman fucking
pussy hound, cross-country tall man hunter. And it's just very similar to Ash and what happens with Ash. Like anybody would think this.
Yeah, but even in the first Phantasm, like right away when they realize spooky, scary things are going on, they're like,
yeah,
we gotta kill these guys. Can we real fast put in a clip of this amazing scene when they are sitting around the fireplace and discussing what to do? The three of them, Jody, Reggie, and Mike. Here you go.
Okay. I see it all now. What we gotta do is we gotta snag that tall dude and stomp the shit out of him, and we'll find out what the hell is going on up there. Yeah, we'll lay that sucker out flat and drive a stake right through his goddamn heart.
You gotta be shitting me, man. That mother's strong.
It's amazing. I love the dialogue so much. But Reggie just being like, okay, here's what we gotta do. We gotta grab him and stomp the shit out of him. Like, it's just so funny.
No, yeah, and I mean, like, there's something about this where I'm wondering about, because it's like, on one level, like, they can't just, like, shoot these dwarves in the tall man, and it's like, it does do damage. Like, they never really do moments of, like, they're invincible and you can't do this. Jody is immediately able to shoot one of the floating orbs with a shotgun. Nothing can't be killed.
But the tall man's finger does grow back.
The tall man's finger grows back, and the finger itself becomes a sort of car rear view mirror hanger fly thingy.
Yeah, anyway. It's just like a weird bug scarab. I don't know.
So I'm curious, how come what are you guys bringing up with them fighting back? What is that doing for you? Because me as a filmmaker, I'm getting ideas right now, but why is that having an impression on you, and what did you like or not like about it?
It just doesn't feel like a horror movie.
They never feel victimized,
right.
And it's not like in a normal slasher or whatever where they're victimized the entire time and then they fight back at the very end.
Right.
It's
or barely make it out. Like,
yeah,
they're like they have to just escape.
Every time when faced with something scary, they always immediately choose to fight back, even though they don't have any skin in the game. Like, they don't have to be saving anybody at this point.
No, Mike's first face-to-face confrontation with the tall man in the mausoleum, they walk towards each other. And Mike says something like, oh, God, here we go. This is like a little kid. And he just, like, starts walking towards the tall man. And then he, like, runs away.
Actually, I think what he says is,
Yeah. It's good. But he's going right towards it. And he's breaking. He wants to solve the mystery. He wants to save the town. And they continue to be heroes. And they hit it harder in the future movies. Yeah,
that's just cool that you guys are bringing that up, because I feel like it's kind of owed all the way back to even maybe they didn't totally intend it, but the how good the writing is in some regards, how the consequences for the characters could constantly be faced and either overcome or not, and it just didn't feel like they were making everything up as the movie went along, even though it's a fiction and completely original we've never heard of. It wasn't just, oh, and now these are the rules, and now these are the rules. Like, the characters had some say and pushback, and that seems to, like, make the film much more tangible for us to grab onto and have the plot unfold.
And it's also just seemingly there's not something that people like to do to mix these genres, because, like, this movie is very, like, how many horror movies, like, this is, like, horror, there's, like, gore in it. But then there's also just like a lot of like shit blowing up, like an A-Team episode.
Yeah, every single Phantasm movie has to involve a car exploding. Like, yeah. I remember, I think during the third one, we see a car, it hits a tree, and I'm like, wait for it. And then giant fucking explosion, I'm like, right. Thank you.
There's one part of the fourth movie where there's still, where it's, I wish I could, I don't know if we're going to put in a whole clip of this sequence because it's like so long, but Reggie gets in a confrontation with like a monster cop, like a cop who's like some kind of monster, and he like fights him. he traps himself in the car, and then he gets out, runs away, like shoots the cop like 4 times, and then the cop gets in the cop car. He blows up the cop car. The cop gets out for a second and walks, and you're starting to be like, oh, is there like, are they now invincible? Does blowing them up no longer work? And then the cop just like falls down, and Reggie has some incredibly flat, terrible line. This is like the 4th movie. It's something like, wow, some cops really suck. Like, that's actually what he says. That's his joke at the end of this thing, and he says it in a sort of like horrified way. It's a really strange sequence. Again, it's Phantasm 4. Maybe you should check it out, maybe you shouldn't, I don't know, but I feel like I'm recommending it the more I talk about it.
Can we talk for a second about the second film has Mike the character in it, but it doesn't have Mike the actor.
Right.
Mike was recast in the second film, and then they brought back the original actor, who's Michael Baldwin. They brought him back to play Mike in the third film.
Yes.
So recast in the second film, but then they brought Michael Baldwin back in the third film, although not really in the third film that much. Like,
no, he's a reduced role.
And because I think he's actually not a good actor. Like, he's great in the first film.
Great kid.
Really great kid.
He's awkward looking as a kid.
Yeah.
And you know he's going to grow up looking even more awkward.
But
and he does. And it's not quite what you want for the heroic adult Mike.
Right. And when they were making the second film, Universal was like, look, you can either bring back the actor who played Mike or the actor who played Reggie. Wow. Pick one. And Don Coscarelli was like, this is a real Sophie's choice. But, he was friends with Reggie, so he picked Reggie.
He based the whole rest of the series around Reggie. Reggie becomes a character that it's just strange how much sex Reggie has. Like, it's
really weird.
They established from the second movie, oh, this guy just like walks into a room and women throw themselves at him. And then by the third and fourth movie, he keeps having to run into situations with women, and then we have to be like, well, okay, we got to make it a little bit harder for him this time. Like, we can't just automatically have everyone. But then in the end, they all sleep with him, or like they're all like, I like you, but I.
No, Rocky doesn't sleep with him.
She doesn't.
Like, I think she just gives him a kiss on the forehead or something.
She just gives him a kiss on the forehead.
Yeah, she's like this badass character in the third.
So
film,
he's by the third movie, Reggie is.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they do sleep together.
I know they play with that. I don't know. Like,
remember.
she says she calls him her man. I think Rocky calls him her man.
I don't think they sleep together. I think that there's a scene where in bed together, and then she acts like she's going to sleep with him, but then she like handcuffs him to the bed. Yeah. Anyways,
they put Reggie in sexual situations, and this becomes this becomes a focus. And I guess it's kind of cool or something.
It's just funny.
It's funny. Like, it's like. It's almost a joke, but at the same time you could be like, no, I mean, in real life, this guy with this confidence level, maybe, but it's like, no, he couldn't. Like, that's not true. He would not. But it's like the idea is he's always in these situations where he's going to a small town and it's a ghost town because the tall man has been through, and there's like one surviving hot lady.
Yeah, in the lore,
so they're in a crazy situation together, and maybe that is always helping him in these situations.
In the lore of the future movies, what happens is if nobody stops the tall man, he just kills everybody in the town, and they all become zombie slaves, and then the town is disappeared, and the rest of the world is like, oh, that town was hit by, like, I don't know, the plague or something, like some sort of sickness. They don't explain that part very well. Back to Mike, though, bringing up Levi's question about what do we mean when we're connecting these movies to Spielberg. And you said in your intro, Sam, you mentioned Amblin. Can you describe what Amblin is?
Yeah, Amblin is like what Stranger Things is doing.
What is it literally?
It's literally, well, it's originally the name of an early short film that Steven Spielberg made, Amblin. Like, I've never seen it, but I'm just imagining like some dorky Spielberg guy walking, like ambling down the street. Like, I'm just ambling down the street or something, like that's, I don't know. But, so yeah, Amblin then became, you've seen the logo a million times. It's got the E.T. kid going over the moon.
It's a production company.
It's a production company in the 80s. And it's like kind of this is...
It's Spielberg's production
It's Spielberg's production company in the 80s. And but there's like, it's like this kind of aesthetic. And it's like the suburbs. Kids... There's
like kids being the heroes.
Kids being the heroes, the focus usually, like, you think Goonies and stuff, Joe Dante movies. I mean, it's just like, it's like the fucking suburbs. It's real life, but there's magic coming in. The kids maybe are cussing sometimes, kind of. It's Stranger Things. Like, Stranger Things, we all know Stranger Things is doing this. Like that.
What's the J.J. Abrams one? The Super 8. Yeah. Sometimes when I'm wanting to understand a genre or anything's elements, sometimes it's even easier to look at the things that use it nostalgically decades later. And so most recently, Stranger Things has been the biggest nostalgic hit. But along, like when J.J. Abrams made Super 8, all of those elements.
J.J. Abrams, who also was in charge of the remastering of Phantasm. by the way.
Yeah, I already fucking said that.
Oh, you did? I'm sorry. Okay, sorry.
He also named a character in Star Wars after Phantasm, Captain Phasma, because his armor was like chrome and it reminded him of the spheres. Anyways, keep going.
Yeah, sorry.
He somehow got his feet everywhere. He put Star Wars characters in Star Trek. He does,
Yeah.
he's just everywhere messing with everything. Just that. Those are those movies, even those shows or whatever, can show you a lot of the elements of what we're talking about.
Yeah, but Super 8, you said you didn't like it?
I did not.
Yeah, it's so... Do you like Stranger Things?
Yeah, I do. I like the first season. I love the first season.
Yeah, I got into the first season. The thing that I did think was interesting about Stranger Things is because it's a TV show and you really kind of get into the world more. It's one of the only things that I know that has like a little kid story, a teen story, and an adult story running simultaneously. Because like usually in one of these kinds of movies, it's like you'd be focusing just on teens, and maybe they have a dorky little brother that is just a little character or whatever, or they have like their parents are barely seen. But like Stranger Things is actually like showing these different age groups, and of course it's not like it was for little kids necessarily, but it's kind of I thought that was kind of an interesting thing that Phantasm is kind of a little bit more like, 'cause it's got like the two brothers, two different perspectives. It shows you the adult world of sex, hooking up or whatever, Jody, and then the kid perspective of Mike. But this movie, obviously, like this is Spielberg hasn't quite established that aesthetic yet. I would say this movie is a precursor to that, and it's different.
I think this movie kind of represents an alternative direction that the Amblin aesthetic could have been, because they're kind of similar. You got your child leads, young teen leads. But even though you mentioned in Amblin films the boys might curse a little bit, or you specifically said cuss, and I think that demonstrates the difference here. Like they might say like, "Oh shit."
Yeah.
Whereas in Phantasm, early on, you see Mike mouthing, "What the fuck?" And that's amazing. I always love that. I always love when you see a character mouthing, "What the fuck?" It's always funny. And Mike, he's got shotguns and he's ready to shoot to kill. It's just so much harsher. It's so much more gory and hardcore. And I think that what Amblin became is much softer and more nostalgic and more gentle. And
more aimed directly at kids.
Yeah.
Like this is appealing to kids, but it's not quite aimed at them.
And also like aimed at its parents are okay with their kids seeing it.
Right.
Which is not really the case with Phantasm, I'm guessing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a less Spielbergification of Amblin. It's like if you couldn't sell Amblin on cereal boxes. It's like that Amblin aesthetic, but with less Spielberg attached. But the interesting part that I'm learning here was like its place in Spielberg's career, and what's so fascinating is the elements that it is similar to Spielberg and what he did after this, but coming beforehand, which is so cool.
It's a little more New Hollywood in that way. I would say like it's a little more 70s childhood, like the way that people would nostalgically describe that now.
Yeah.
I want to say when we were watching it, so I watched it with Sam and my sister Emma, and then the second time I watched it with Levi and Levi's siblings. And before the movie started, I let y'all know that it was a low budget film, and I really enjoyed throughout the film hearing you guys remark, "Oh my God, look at that stunt! I can't believe he's standing out of the rooftop of a car with a shotgun on such a low budget," or like, "Look at that explosion!" And then like one of the scenes you commented on early on was the bike crash scene and Mike falling off of his bike, and you guys were impressed that they even had that stunt in there given the low budgetness. So
he crashes through the back windshield of a car and rolls off the back at one point.
It's so impressive, and none of that stuff would have been before I made a movie, I think, or if I would have been a lot younger. Me and my siblings all just made this movie together, and we were blown away at how much it pulled off all of those things. They're really hard to pull off. We have like a tire popping and no one getting hurt, and we can't make it work in our film. It's so hard to shoot stuff in the desert. And yeah, when that car chase happened and they're just shooting guns, it's like a straight up Hollywood action film. I mean, we were like clapping, and it was so impressive, and I had a ton of fun, and they utilized their budget really impressively.
Yeah, I mean, and I feel like it is a thing where I can't speak, obviously, like I have some level of sensitivity to this, but like I am not always as charmed by the feeling of something being low budget. There's just something about this movie where you're watching it and I feel like most people can kind of tell this movie's impressive. It's not even set in the suburbs. It's set in like a small town like Nowheresville. These are regular people there's something about it where like it has an indie vibe, even just like in the characters, not just in the budget.
It's very clearly indie when you're watching it, and then when you see such visually striking things in the film, you remember the fact that it's indie.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, look at that. Like, there's a scene that I love, and it's when, I think it's Reggie's ice cream truck had gotten into an accident, and it's turned over on the side of the road, and they are driving up to this accident, and just the way that the truck looks with its headlights shining in the night, and then Mike climbs on top of it to try and peer inside. It just looks amazing. And knowing that it's indie as you're watching it, being hyper aware of that, increases your enjoyment even more so.
Yeah, I feel like Coscarelli is like kind of like a hero to a lot of people.
When his first film came out, he was the youngest director ever to have a feature film be made by a studio.
How old was he? He was 18 or 17 or something?
When he made Phantasm?
No, he made a couple of movies first. He was going indie. He'd worked within the studio system.
He was age 19 when his first film, Jim, the World's Greatest, came out. And so you have to keep in mind that when Phantasm came out, I think he was 25.
Yeah.
So this isn't a director who has been super inspired by like these movies he's lived with for a while. Like, he is new and young and has fresh ideas because of his age.
And it's also like he clearly has a lot of love for the horror genre, but he, like I think a lot of horror directors, was doing it as a kind of mercenary thing. His first couple of movies were just like kid movies, family dramas, and they didn't really connect. And so he wanted to make money. I mean, this is a story that has many horror directors, you know, Wes Craven, John Carpenter, they wind up making horror, and then to some degree, you know, you either make your peace with the fact that that's how people are going to view you, and it's going to take 20 years for Wes Craven to be able to make his passion project, Music of the Heart, a inspirational teacher violin movie starring Meryl Streep. And I saw that movie. I thought it was okay. I don't know if you guys saw the movie, but it's certainly not what we're going to remember Wes Craven for. And it's just, this guy is a guy who's like, okay, I'm pivoting this direction, and I think he seized it. And I feel like he's got this career that almost anybody who's in this could just be like, that is the kind of career I'd want. Like, he got to make 4 versions. He makes sequels to his movies. He's a figure within a certain sphere.
Yeah, in his earlier films, which were not horror, I think one of them had a jump scare scene in it, even though it wasn't horror, and he noticed how strongly the audiences reacted to it. And he realized, like, oh, it's easier to pull off stuff when you do horror.
Yeah.
And so then he decided to make Phantasm, and he had said he never really expected himself to be a horror director, which, Levi, I feel like you can relate to. Like, you have told me you didn't really envision yourself as being a horror director when you were younger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I saw him say that too. That was one of the things I connected with him saying was when he said he didn't really see himself as that horror director, but now that he's made a horror film, all he's getting offered is horror, because people on the outside of horror kind of view horror as being a very binary thing. But yeah, I completely connect with that. I have made a horror film myself, but it's like saying I made a genre film. I don't know what genre I'm going to make yet. Why do I have to be... But it's because people that love horror, and everyone knows that person. And so they kind of...
the highest rate of return, too, typically. Yeah. Like, you can make them for so cheap, and they typically work very well. You know, like, it's a reliable thing. And they're clearly kind of, in a way, like, the most cinematic genre.
Yeah.
Again, to bring back Sweeney Todd, Sondheim has said the goal of Sweeney Todd was to see if you can scare people on stage the way that you can scare people in movies. And he's like, I don't really think it's quite scary enough to really say that. Movies are the thing that you can't, like, have a jump scare in a book. Or, like, you know, you can't, like, you know, I don't know, I guess you could have dread and stuff.
Is a film like an ultimate medium for horror?
Kind of made. I think video games also seem to be pretty good for it, too, as I can imagine.
Yeah, because I used to be really scared of horror films. I still am, but I'm getting more used to them. I've never been scared of a horror book. Like, I've never been scared reading a Stephen King or anything like that.
Yeah, I don't know if I have. I mean, this movie has a little Salem's Lot to it. I would say also just to bring another thing. But again, I think that's happening at the same time. Obviously, like, I think Nick Coscarelli, I mean, he a true auteur,
Don Coscarelli.
My friend Nicholas Joseph Coscarelli, Don Coscarelli, I'm so sorry. A hero to many, a true auteur. He wrote and directed 4 of these movies. I think he wrote the 5th one. This movie he wrote, directed, shot, and edited.
Yeah, and his dad produced.
And his mom made the costumes and the makeup and wrote the novelization of the original movie, which was only published in Japan, where Mike was something of a teen icon.
But then it inspired her to write more, and she ended up writing a bestseller.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
It's how fucking like that's parent and child goals, I would say.
Hell yeah.
Come on.
Hell yeah.
Mom did the makeup and the costumes. Great job, Mom.
Yeah. I mean, Levi can relate to this. Levi's mom built the set.
Yes.
Built one of the set pieces with her friend for the Goat Man. I mean, like...
That's so great.
Yes, moms. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't stop talking about how much I connect with the production of this film and how everything happened. But to my experience, that's also like kind of how I'm biased on it and how it's hard to understand what exactly other audiences think of it. I think if I were to watch this 10 more times, I would just come back talking about more places in which it was masterful and getting away further from what audiences might even experience the first time. I wanted to ask you, just very simply, Elena, what do you like about this film? And why do you like it? What is it about? Because really, the parts about it that I love come from such a place I feel like is just so removed from like an audience member I used to
possibly
be.
have for you?
What do you like about it so much?
It was so fun. It was a blast. Like, so as I mentioned, the first time I watched it, my sister watched with us, but she lives on the East Coast and we're on the West Coast. So we watched it over Messenger. Like we watched it remotely and then just texted back and forth. And it provided ample opportunity to shoot off a quick, like, what the fuck? Or, oh my God, or that's so fucking funny, or, you know, things like that. Like, this movie made me exclaim out loud multiple times. Like, I felt like I had the experience of being one of those people who talks at the film, like, don't go in there, or like, what?
It
or,
was bringing out a much more of us talking to the screen than I typically see from you.
Yeah, it was, I had so much fun watching it.
Totally.
It was just great, and I don't know, all the elements worked for me, even though it's not my type of film usually.
But, you know, I could kind of see it being your kind of film in a way. You know, like, I really do see, there's a lot about it that I could see you like. It's almost campy, even though it's kind of not.
Yeah, no,
but
it for sure is.
It verges in a way in that direction.
And when we host our movie marathons, I always try to put a movie like this in there, like a fun, ridiculous, outlandish film where you're like, what's going on? But you actually have a great time watching it.
This really felt like being in the middle of one of Elena's epic movie marathons where you're like, I did not expect to be in a movie like this, and I've never seen this before, and are we just tired or is this really happening?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I don't know if I would have seen this movie in any other context. I don't know why I've missed this movie. I mean, like, I know why I've missed this movie. But it's just so strange when you discover it's like, yeah, this had 5 movies, like 5 Phantasm movies. Like people came to see him every time. Like, you know.
I had never heard of this film. And then after we recorded the Young Frankenstein episode, we were like, okay, let's pick another horror. Let's pick one that's not as big. So let's just like search around and see what came out in the 70s. And then you're like, what about this film Phantasm? And we both look it up and we're like, it's got good reviews. Let's do it. Like, it's just crazy to stumble upon a cult classic that has this whole hardcore fan base.
Yeah, I do think that it is the kind of thing that speaks a lot. It's like the Velvet Underground, where it's clearly like speaks a lot to creatives. Like a lot of people, it's you know, people say about the Velvet Underground and Nico, the first album, like not many people bought the album or whatever, but every person who did started a band. You know, so like I feel like this movie it inspires devotion. In creatives and nerds, and you know,
I feel like it's kind of similar to what people say about Kevin Smith. Like, even if you don't like Kevin Smith,
and
even if
Raimi.
you don't like his movies, you're still like, it's inspiring the way he approaches them and the way he just makes shit.
100%.
Yes, there's a real sense of place and just reality. Yeah, like I do appreciate that he felt even in the 70s, like, yeah, these actors are too attractive. Like these I want to have more real people in my movie, and he stuck to that. Like, you know, I mean, he almost sold out a little bit in Phantasm 2. The guy who they replaced Mike, I can't remember his name. He's a pretty guy. He's in Point Break. He's in very things. You know who they wanted to have replace Mike?
Who?
Brad Pitt.
Whoa.
Like Brad Pitt in 1988 as Mike for Phantasm 2. I mean, just the mind boggles.
It probably wouldn't be a cult classic
anymore
at this point. It would just be like a classic.
This is one of the great cinematic works of the 20th century. Okay, is there anything else? I mean, do you guys want to talk about your suburban childhoods or rural childhoods or our relationship to guns or...
Oh, I love the scene. This movie has so many great, like, ingenious things the characters do. So when Mike is locked in his room and he happens to have like the shotgun bullet in his pocket, and then he sees a hammer and he's like, oh, let me tape this bullet. I don't know if that's even the word.
Thumbtack to a bullet.
Yeah, he like tapes a thumbtack to a bullet and then the hammer against it, and then he uses the hammer to like set off the bullet. I don't even know if bullet's the right term for this, but he sets it off against the door and blows a hole in the door, and it's just like so ingenious. And then every one of the films I saw has an element of that. Like the second one has this really iconic thing that Reggie makes where he takes two shotguns and tapes them together, and so he has this, or welds them together, so he's got this like 4-barrel shotgun or something crazy like that.
Which they never quite pay off fully. There's never like a super huge hole in anything.
I
Like
know.
they need to like have they could have illustrated like a really wide hole.
A wide one,
you know?
not just
right.
like giant.
But
weirdly
but
shaped.
still looked cool.
It still looked cool.
And it's so fucking Ash for me with that. I'm sorry, like it's go on.
And then the third film, as I mentioned before, the razor frisbee was
Yeah.
also definitely like an ingenious gadget. So I love that aspect about it too. And it's barely in these movies, but it's definitely
And one of the other
there.
characters also 3 has nunchucks.
Oh, Rocky has nunchucks,
nunchucks,
right.
yeah.
But that's not really like a gadget, something that I'm talking things that the characters create, like they're
Yes.
clever,
Right.
and they create these weapons or these tools to get out of these situations.
Yeah, again, it's a multi-genre piece. The new Hollywood thing, obviously this movie is an independent film that is drafting off of certain trends. Obviously, like the horror boom, this like independent horror really starts with like Halloween. Although, of course, there's also Night of the Living Dead had happened a decade plus earlier.
Exorcist.
No, but that's like a studio. That's a different kind of horror. Like there's the whole this movie arrives at a particular place in horror movie trends. This is what we're getting at with all the Sam Raimi and the Amblin stuff. Like that's about to come. The short version of horror in the 70s is like it moves away from these Tony studio supernatural things like Rosemary's Baby and The Exorcist. Don't Look Now, into the later half is more of like slasher, and like and it becomes more down and dirty, like suburban kids getting killed. Horror movies are going to be like cheap and easy to make and easy to be successful. Do you know any of the stuff? Like, do you know what I'm talking about? Like Halloween.
I know.
Like,
horror films used to be very like B movie schlock, and then they became elevated a little bit in the 70s.
Right.
But now I guess they get brought back down as like, let's make these kind of for cheap. And they're going to appeal to a wide audience. And they're not going to be like schlock quite the way they were in the 50s. But we're also not going to be aiming for great heights with them.
But you can make a lot of money. Like, I feel like there's a difference between the exploitation or like the B movie thing versus like the indie horror post John Carpenter.
Yeah.
This guy, Sam Raimi era stuff. Like,
yeah. So I think what we're really getting at is it's a transition film.
It definitely is. That's why, again, 79, this is a transition year. We're in this moment where I feel like almost 79 has a lot of the future in it, more so than 80 and 81. I think 80 and 81 are a little bit, we go back to New Hollywood a little bit, and 79 is this very like forward-looking year where a lot of trends are being presaged.
Yeah. And similar to how Aliens revealed that Alien is not quite 80s yet. It is definitely 70s. You can do the same with Phantasm 2 versus Phantasm 1. Like Phantasm 2 is an 80s action film, whereas Phantasm, the original, has a lot of 70s elements. It takes its time. It's got the surreal, dreamlike thing going on. It's Lynchian
kind of at the same time.
Before then,
right, yeah.
like it. And Alex Garland gave a shout out to Phantasm. So Alex Garland, he made
Ex Machina, Civil War,
Annihilation. He said that the dreamlike, surreal quality of Phantasm heavily influenced all of the stuff that he made, and you can totally see that. So it's definitely like experimental in a way with the way it's dream logic and whatnot. But it's also it's outside of New Hollywood in a large way because it's an indie film. It's not a studio film. I think that you focusing in on the horror aspect is important. Like within the story of the evolution of horror, it is definitely at that transition mark, as you mentioned before.
Yeah, it's kind of like an early version of A Nightmare on Elm Street, except with a much less extreme 80s villain. A much more like, in Phantasm, he's much more like a Universal Monster, old-fashioned villain transported into this new context.
Yeah.
I was surprised you guys were doing this film. It felt very, I guess I didn't even know what I thought of it, but I thought New Hollywood, when you say it, I can't, all I picture are the big production companies at the time and the big directors and the big stamps in our culture that they made. So to bring up a cult classic that I had never heard about that's made on essentially a micro budget outside of the studio system, I was going to ask you guys before you started talking about it, how does that relate to New Hollywood, and how do you guys see its place in New Hollywood? I was so interested to see you guys cover an indie film.
I want us to cover throughout the course of this podcast basically any film that takes place from the late 60s to the early 80s. And even if it's not directly New Hollywood, like even if it is outside of the studio system, it is still absolutely worth our time to compare and contrast it with the studio system going on and how it's in conversation with other major films of the era and the cultural context that this whole time period has. Because New Hollywood, it's not a well-defined movement. There's a lot of different strains of New Hollywood. And like any film era, it's just a description of trends that happened around a similar time in filmmaking.
Yeah, but I mean, you kind of can say about something that's coming out in the 70s, this is a New Hollywood film. That's not really a New Hollywood film. In a way, like if you want to make silly thing, like I mean, it's like we've already, it's like, is Woody Allen New Hollywood? He's in New York. Does that disqualify him from being in New Hollywood? You know what I mean? It's like, obviously, yes, it's scary movie months. A lot of the scary movies are kind of outsidery like this in the 70s. A lot of them are kind of coming out of a random place. Like a lot of horror movies aren't New Hollywood, and that's fine. And we just did Young Frankenstein. Like, is that New Hollywood? Yes, but not as much as Blazing Saddles. It's a continuing question. We are going to we're not just going to cover movies by the movie brats. We're going to fudge it all the time. And we won't just do movies that are described in Easy Riders, Raging Bulls.
Yeah. Variety is the spice of life.
It's true.
Yeah, that's it. I think on a New Hollywood podcast, it's fun to see you not be talking just about all the famous people at the time, but to have a movie I've never heard of that you guys brought to my attention, and everything back to what you were saying about how inspiring it is for creatives, and back to what you were saying about how it is a part of its time and yet ahead of its time as well. I think that guy the director is just a pioneer. I think this film and its place in how it was made is timeless. It's when he talks about how he gets it made and how troublesome distribution, marketing, everything is, it's everything I'm going through right now. As a 2024 indie filmmaker trying to get his stuff on streaming, it couldn't be more different of a world, and yet it's somehow so similar to back then. I'm so glad that you guys showed me this film. I've just been geeking out the past couple weeks, and this film has been a part of it, of making me, again, like truly believe the power of indie. Yeah. I think indie is going truly incredible places. I just want to shake his hand and thank him for the inspiration, because this was so cool. It was a really good film. I loved it a lot.
On that note, let's give it our Cold Stone rating.
Yeah. All right. So Cold Stone Creamery gave us many things. It's given us iconic creations such as Cookie Don't You Want Some? There's also a very funny one, a very clever one that also, speaking of cookie dough, that is cookie dough mixed with cake batter ice cream. So what they call it is all lovin', no oven, because it's all dough. Cake batter and cookie dough mixed together in one thing. All lovin', no oven. Somebody sat down and thought of this name and then took a lunch break. And deservedly so, in my opinion.
Those are my two favorite flavors.
Yeah?
Yeah, I gotta try it.
You gotta try it.
I gotta have it.
I mean, I'm sorry to point out the obvious, but so Cold Stone, they give us many things. But they also gave us, here at Kale Your Idols, a rating system for movies that we at least like, which is based on their sizing system of like it, love it, and gotta have it. Their iconic sizing system. So if the movie if the movie that we're talking about we at least like, we say we like it, love it, or gotta have it. If we don't like it, we say it doesn't make the scale. Sometimes we make up a cutesy thing about it. Okay, what'd you guys think vis-a-vis Cold Stone?
Gotta have it. All of it. Gotta have the dwarves. Gotta have it. The boobs at the opening. Gotta have it. The clunkiness of the cutting when something doesn't quite work, but it's kind of good. Gotta have it. Mm-hmm. All the unfolding of the fiction. Gotta have it. I could do without the dream-like ending, but I gotta have the rest of it.
Yeah, I said in the last episode, the 8.5 episode. Oh no, 2 episodes ago, 8.5 episode, I think I said that I didn't think I'd ever give a gotta have it to a movie that I hadn't seen before. And I thought that it had to stick with me for a while. Well, I'm about to eat my shorts because I gotta have it. It was so fun. It was a blast. And I know that in the future, I'm going to be really excited to show this movie to people. So for me, definitely gotta have it. And I ditto everything that Levi just said.
I'm trying to almost not muster enough enthusiasm for it, but I can't help but be enthusiastic about it because it's like a thing where I'm like, it's not quite my thing, but the whole time it's like going and be like, but come on, it's pretty good, all right? Like, you know, you gotta give it up. And so, yeah, I didn't know what I was going to say when I opened my mouth just now.
I mean, don't be peer pressured. Just
I know.
well,
I don't want to just be peer pressured. The movie is very good. If I said that I liked it, that would be a lie. If I said that I loved it, that wouldn't feel like a lie. But if I said I gotta have it, that also would not feel like a lie. So I remain torn between loving it and gotta having it.
I feel that.
I don't want to succumb to peer pressure, so I'm in a bit of a bind.
What if you, like, lotta have it? Like, combine them.
But I mean, like, so then are we just going to keep dividing the things between these designations an infinite amount of times?
But
when
how
is
come,
it going to lose its own meaning?
But how come you chose this rating system? It's not just like good, like, you know, bad, medium, and good, right? It's a feeling.
You're right.
You
That's a good
know?
point.
So like this, how do you feel?
Yeah, no, that's good. I think it's more love it.
Yeah, I feel like you were not as enthusiastic.
No, thank you for explaining my rating system back to me, Levi. You really put it all in perspective into a perfect way. Yeah. Thank you. I need to get back to the roots of what it means to like it, love it, or gotta have it. And this was a love it. But I do love it.
Right. This is probably not how you feel at all, Elena, but I feel a little bit disconnected from how most audiences would feel on this. And you guys were not totally on my board with this. You guys said you would recommend it to a lot of people. I really wouldn't. I don't think a lot of people would like this film.
Sure.
I know I run in different circles though as well. Maybe I'm not as nerdy as I thought. It just from a very personal place, it's a gotta have it. And I think that might be the case for cult classics a lot of the time. It's kind of it's a cool cult classic for me, and I really loved it, and I gotta have it. But I can totally see why people wouldn't. And I don't know if I would recommend this to everyone. It just has to be your thing or maybe not.
To say I am in the cult would be wrong.
I think it worked for me in the way that it worked for all the other cult fans out there. I think I am definitely an audience member, even though I'm surprised to find myself a cult fan of it. Like, it worked on me so well.
A beautiful thing to see. And again, Angus Scrimm, he would have a tear in his eye hearing you say this.
Hearing both of you guys talk about this decades later, after watching the interview and seeing how charming they were, this is so cool. Yeah, I mean, it would be amazing for him to hear this. I can only hope 50 years from now, people, like some nerds on a podcast, would be talking about my film like this. It's so cool.
It's actually sweet to imagine, like, Angus Scrimm probably legit in heaven would enjoy listening to us talk in this podcast that nobody else listens to about Phantasm, and he would get a kick out of it and maybe write us a nice heavenly email.
Angus, if you're listening, I'm sorry that I said you weren't that tall, and I'm sorry that I said you weren't that iconic, and that you didn't work very well for me. You were great. You're beautiful. Thank you for everything you gave to the world.
He would just be like, hey, look, it doesn't work for everybody. I have legions of fans who love me, whether you like me or not, Elena.
That concludes another exciting new Hollywood adventure. Thank you all so much for listening. Don't forget to subscribe to Kale Your Idols on the podcatcher of your choice. We would love it if we got more ratings and reviews. It helps us out a lot. And we would love to hear from you, so please get in touch with us. Our Instagram is where we're most active, and I strongly recommend using that, but you can also find us on X. Just search for the name of our podcast, Kale Your Idols, and you'll find us. You can also send us an email to kaleyouridols@gmail.com. We want to say thank you to the Illuminator for our logo, and thank you to ourselves for everything else. Please join us next episode, where we will be celebrating Sam's birthday with our previously promised episode on John Frankenheimer's The Iceman Cometh. This is a filmed adaptation of a 4-hour-long Eugene O'Neill play exploring broken dreams and misery. In other words, a perfect birthday present for Sam.
And for you all. Oh, wait, should we thank Levi for being here? Did you thank Levi?
And thank you, Levi, so much for being here. It was so much fun having you on the show again. and looking forward to having you on again in the future.
Elena, say thank you. What is wrong with you?
Thanks so much for having me on, you guys. I love you both. And I am learning so much about New Hollywood from this podcast. It's been a total blast listening to it, and being on is even cooler. So I'll see you guys for Star Wars or whatever thing like Phantasm you have next in store for me.
Hell yeah, man. Anytime. Hey, Peter Fonda, how did we do?
We blew it.
I was watching a film with my movie brat friends, and as it went on, we all started to sense it was challenging current social mores, as well as our involvement in foreign wars. And it was MASH! Robert Altman's MASH! Altman's MASH! A commercial smash! The film was MASH! At Cannes it made a splash! The movie MASH! Brian De Palma left the film disappointed. Jane Fonda agreed that the scenes were disjointed. Dennis Hopper said he'd enjoyed it a ton, especially the parts with Sally Kellerman. In that film MASH, Robert Altman's MASH. Altman's MASH. The commercial smash. The for MASH. At Cannes it made a splash. The movie MASH. The Schraders were having fun. John Milius brought his gun. The group included both O'Neills, Tatum, and Ryan. The scene began to turn disturbing and crazy when Ashby stole coke that was brought by Scorsese. Jessica Lange didn't stay too long, saying this night is as wild as the remake of King Kong. Better than MASH! Robert Altman's MASH. We've just seen MASH. It grossed a ton of cash. Box office MASH. Marty asked, where's my stash? Check with Hal Ash. Margot Kidder admitted it hadn't been her cup of tea. Nothing but a hodgepodge of sexist imagery. Just a collection of comedic stunts. And why are all the characters talking at once all throughout MASH? Robert Altman's MASH. Altman's MASH. With critics quite the smash. Critics said yes. Some thought the hype was rash. They found it crass. The party went on till the early morn. Catherine Ross had much to say to Rip Torn. What did I think of MASH? I'll give you a clue. You can read it in my old New Yorker review. Review of MASH. Robert Altman's MASH. Altman's MASH. A stylistic smash. Some thoughts on MASH. Curse words went by in a flash. Fuck made us flash. By the way, I should have mentioned this all happened on Halloween. I see that it might have been a long walk to get from spooky to Monster Mash to Robert Altman's MASH, but you get it. I mean, you see how I got there, if you understand, you know, the general milieu that this show works in.